Early 16th century. Following the Reconquista, the Spain Catholic monarchy was in control of Andalusia. The people of Andalusia was then facing difficult period of inquisition applied by Spanish government and the church. They were forced to choose between baptism or expulsion. Those who refused conversion were then forced to leave Spain, leaving their homeland to an unknown land across the sea. Facing cruel weather, hunger and robber along the way, many of them didn't even make it to the coast. Those survived had to face harassment from the Spanish soldiers and sailors. The news of tragic fate of Andalusian people were spread to Islamic world, and reached two siblings in island of Lesbos. Aruj and Khidr were sons of a retired janissary who owns a pottery business. The two along with their brothers, Ilyas and Ishak, worked as sailors and brought their father ships and goods to nearby cities. Aruj and Ilyas sail around Anatolia, Lebanon, and Egypt. Khidr to cities around the Aegean Sea, while Ishak stayed in Lesbos taking care of finance. The Rhodes Island were the base of Knight Hospitaller, conducting holy war at the sea against Turkish vessels with blessing from the Pope. One day on the way returning from a trade expedition to Lebanon, Aruj's vessel were ambushed by the Knight Hospitaller. Ilyas was killed, Aruj was wounded, while their ship was captured. Aruj then took as prisoner for 3 years in their base at Rhodes Island, until Khidr found and rescued him. Aruj then went to meet Korkut, an Ottoman prince and governor of Anatolia, asked his permission to fight the crusader in Rhodes Island, which he granted. Korkut gave him 18 galleys and put Aruj in charge of holy war at sea against the crusader, which he performed successfully. At that time, pirates were not always criminals. Some of them were licensed and sponsored by their country, like given to Aruj from the Ottoman and the Knight Hospitaller from the Pope. In England they were called privateer, while in Mediterranean they were known as corsair. As they were identical with the Berber tribes, they were called barbarian corsair. The conflict of succession and Ottoman throne during the ascension of Sultan Sulayman I, which involved Korkut, forcing Aruj moved away from Turkey to Tunisia. The Tunisian ruler granted Aruj permission to operate in his territory and used Jerba Island as their base, as long as they got share of their booty. His brothers, Khidr and Ishak, then joined him at Jerba, starting their career as barbarian corsairs since 1503. His sympathy to the suffering of Andalusian people turned Spain as Aruj's main target and enemy. In single year of 1504, they attacked, drowned and captured tens of Spain's ships, and took hundreds of Spanish soldiers and sailors as his prisoners. During period of 1504 to 1510, they voluntarily answered the call for help from the Moors and Jewish refugee expelled from Andalusia and brought them to the safe place in North Africa. Aruj also freed many Moorish slaves he found in Spanish ships. His generosity and heroism earned him the title of Baba Aruj, means Father Aruj. The nickname then transformed by European into Barbarossa, which in Italian means red beard, the exact color of Kapten Aruj's beard. Since then, Kapten Aruj and Khidr were known as the Barbarossa brothers, the most feared pirates in Mediterranean Sea. Aruj were actively campaigning against Spain, fought them in Bougie, Oran and Algiers. One of the battle in 1512 cost him his left hand. Finally in 1516, Aruj Rais drove the Spanish out of Algiers and handed over the city to the Ottoman, with himself as the chief governor. The Barbarossa brothers have made Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, furious. Charles sent 10,000 of imperial army to Oran in Algeria. Aruj and Ishak then quickly moved to capture Tlemcen and set up his defense there. Aruj with his 1,500 janissaries and 5,000 Moorish militia were facing 3 times larger Spanish forces supported by Bedouin cavalry. After besieged for 20 days, they finally overwhelmed and the city fell. Aruj and Ishak were both killed while retreating. Khidr, the only one remaining, then inherited Aruj's position, his fleet and men, as well as his nickname, Barbarossa, even though his beard's color wasn't red. He then asked for the Ottoman support to fight against Spain. The Ottoman ruler, Sultan Sulayman the Magnificent, then sent 2,000 of his elite janissaries. With the Turkish troops dispatched and keeping his base secured, Khidr Rais can now freely back to business, spreading threat and terror to his enemies at the sea. Captain Khidr and his fleet attacked ships and terrorized cities along the Mediterranean coast of Spain, Italy, France and Greece. His feared standard banner wasn't Jolly Roger. It was green-colored. At the top was a quote from a verse of Quran. In the middle was the famous sword of Prophet Muhammad surrounded by 4 crescent with the names of 4 rightly guided caliphs. And below it was a 6-pointed star, a symbol known as the Seal of Solomon. In year 1529, Khidr again answered the call for help from 70,000 Morisco refugees and transported them from Gibraltar to Algiers. Many of the Moors later joined him and became corsairs to revenge Spain and prevent them conquering North Africa. 2 superpower nations of that time, the Holy Roman Empire and the Ottoman Sultanate, were competing for control over Mediterranean Sea. The Turks under Sulayman the Magnificent were in its zenith and expanding their lands. Meanwhile, Charles V recruited a famous Genoese sailor, Andrea Doria, to lead their navy fleet. While Sulayman was busy with his war in Austria, Andrea Doria captured several cities along the coast of Greece. Even though they can be quickly taken back, Sulayman then realized the importance to have a strong navy to protect his rear. To compete with the Imperial Navy and their admiral, only one name came up that can match his skills and reputation. Captain Khidr sailed to Istanbul in August 1532. Before he met the Sultan, he still managed to attack Messina and captured 18 galleys, and then ambushed and captured another 7 galleys belonging to Andrea Doria in Calabria. Sultan Sulayman the Magnificent appointed Khidr Rais as the Grand Admiral of Ottoman Navy, as well as a Chief Governor of North Africa and Governor of Rhodes Island, Avia and Chios. He also granted the title of Khairuddin, the best man of Islam. Since then he was known as Khairuddin Pasha Barbarossa. And with support of the Ottoman Navy, he became more threat to his enemies. With Barbarossa more frequently attacking Venetian vessels and cities, Pope Paul III then decided to form a Holy League. Consisted of Papal States, Republic of Venice, Genoa, Knight of Malta and Spain, ready for holy war at sea. The coalition fleet managed to gather 300 ships. Led by Andrea Doria, they set sail to Preveza to confront the Ottoman fleet. Their strength heavily outnumbered the Ottoman fleet of 122 ships under the command of Khairuddin Barbarossa. The 2 fleets finally met at Preveza and battled fiercely on September 24, 1538. At dawn, however, Barbarossa's numerically inferior fleet surprisingly made a daring offensive move towards the Christians' fleet. By taking advantage of the wind, using his smaller and faster ships to outmaneuver the enemy, he managed to turn things around. At the end of the day they successfully drowned 10, burned 3, and captured 36 of Holy League's ships along with 3,000 of their soldiers and sailors. While the Turks' casualties reached 400 men killed and 800 wounded, they didn't lost a single ship in this battle. The next morning, when the wind was favorable, Andrea Doria took his Spanish and Genoese fleet left the battlefield, ignoring pleas from his allies to continue the fight. The victory increased his fame. Even the Emperor Charles V tried to recruit Barbarossa by offering position of Admiral-in-Chief and ruler of all Spain territory in North Africa. But Khairuddin refused to betray his motherland. Not only he rejected the offer, he beheaded the messenger sent by Charles V. Charles responded by assembling his fleet and sieged Algiers in 1541, the city governed by Captain Hassan, son of Barbarossa. Though advised by Andrea Doria to abort the mission due to unfriendly weather, Charles insisted to proceed, and a violent storm caused a disaster to his fleet. Just a few of them survived and landed on the coast only to be outnumbered and easily beaten by a waiting Turkish and Berber army. Charles totally lost 17 galleys, 130 carracks and a massive number of 12,000 soldiers and sailors were killed or taken prisoner. Between year 1543 and 1544, Khairuddin actively involved in coalition with France in a campaign against the alliance of Spain and England. He assisted the French in capturing San Remo, Nice and Villefranche. Before he joined the coalition forces at Marseille, Khairuddin's fleet of 210 ships and 30,000 troops landed on a nearby coast and directly threatened Rome, before France intervened and persuaded him not to attack Rome. And on its way back from France, Barbarossa and his fleet besieged Genoa to free his friend Captain Turgot, who was imprisoned by Andrea Doria in the city. Later he besieged the island of Elba to free the son of his other friend, Captain Sinan, who was captured 10 years earlier by the Spanish. He finally returned to Istanbul in 1545 for retirement, spending his last days in his palace in Bosphorus. He made a memoirs, The Conquest of Khairuddin Pasha, now exhibited in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul University Library. Captain Khidr or Khairuddin Barbarossa passed away in 1546. He was buried near a ferry port in the district of Beşiktaş, the place where his fleet used to assemble. His legacies were not only the city of Algiers inherited by his son, Hasan Pasha, but also his spirit and courage to fellow Muslim sailors. He's a hero to those he had helped, also a nightmare to his enemies. It depends on our point of view.